Damn, man. So yesterday was Dustin Poirier's last fight. And what a way to go out, man. Sharing the cage with Max Holloway one last time. That was a poetic way, two legends, two warriors who've given their lives to the game, closing a trilogy on one of the biggest stages possible. And I'm not gonna lie, it's gonna feel real different without Dustin around. The sport loses something when a guy like that walks away. He's one of those fighters that's been part of the UFC fabric for over a decade. Win or lose, you always knew Dustin's fights was going to deliver. Violence, grit, emotion. It was all there. So yeah, it stings a little bit knowing that chapter is closed. But with all that being said, we gotta talk about Max Holloway because last night, that was one of the most dominant composure performance we've seen from him in a minute. And that's saying something. Now look, let's give Dustin his flowers for a second. He did have his moments. That second round especially, he caught Max clean, dropped him. It wasn't a slip or an off balance thing. That was a legit knockdown. And Dustin followed up with some heavy shots that clearly got Max's attention. That's who Dustin Poirier is. He's got power, he's got timing, and if you give him an inch, he'll take a mile. So yeah, he landed, dude. He made it a real crazy fight for a moment. You can't keep a guy like Dustin complete quiet for 5 rounds. In my opinion, it's just not possible. But man, even with all that being said, you can still tell that from the opening bell that Max was dialed in. The speed difference was obvious. Max was seeing everything, slipping punches with inches to spare, firing right back with combinations, and mixing in those signature level changes. And honestly, I wasn't surprised at all. This is the same Max Holloway who walked up to 155 and starched Justin Gaethje, a dude who's built his whole career on breaking people and turning fights into wars. Max went in there and outclassed him. So heading into this Dustin fight, you just knew that Max was operating on a different level, and he showed it yet again. But I feel like a lot of people forget that Max has consistently been evolving, and to be fair, Dustin is kind of getting up there when it came to age. But what really stood out to me though was how effortless everything looked. His footwork was smooth, the angles were sharp, the body work was on point. He was painting a full picture in there. Max wasn't just edging out Dustin, he was outclassing him, reacting before Dustin could set his feet, changing rhythm, touching the body, slipping just enough to counter clean. It was like watching a chess match. Max was always 2 moves ahead, and you could see it starting to wear on Dustin. By round 3, the pressure, the volume, the consistent movement, it was adding up. Dustin's output started to dip, his feet slowed down, and Max just kept elevating. Round by round, he took over. The craziest part, he made it look easy at times. This was Max Holloway proving not only that he belongs in the lightweight division, he might be one of the most dangerous guys in the division right now. And I don't think people are really grasping this yet, but we're low-key watching a trend unfold and right in front of us. There's a real divisional skill gap happening between some of these elite featherweights and your average lightweight contenders. Like Max Holloway is not just winning fights at 155, he's making seasoned lightweights look a step behind. And it's not just Max. I mean, let's take a step back a bit. Volkanovski, who was the featherweight king, nearly beat Islam Makhachev, who's considered pound for pound #1 by a lot of people, by the way. That wasn't supposed to be close, right? But Volk give him hell. Then you've got Max, who just schooled Dustin and iced Justin. 2 top 5 lightweights made to look like they were reacting the whole time instead of leaning. And now Ilia just walked into 155, flatlined Charles in 1 round. These aren't just flukes, it's a pattern. And you're probably asking, why is this happening? It comes down to what lighter fighters bring when they move up. The jump from featherweight to lightweight isn't massive, it's 10 pounds. And honestly, most of these guys walking around at the same weight anyways. So when Max moves up, he's not at a huge size disadvantage. He's actually fighting at his natural weight class now. And it shows. He's faster, more durable, and hits harder without that brutal cut. But here's the real kicker. It's the speed, timing, and cardios that these 145 carry with them. Featherweights are used to fighting with a pace. They're used to volume. They're used to scrambling and adapting every second of the round. And when you put that skill set in a division that's a little slower and more power focused, you start to see gaps. These dudes from 145 just move different. Their reactions are sharper, they know how to manage distance better, and most lightweights can't keep up with that. Max Holloway is the poster boy for this. His output is insane, his chin is still granted, he doesn't gas, and now he's carrying power that he didn't even have at 145. I mean, the body work's nastier, the combinations land with more thud, he's not just outpointing dudes, he's hurting them. And yeah, there are still killers at 155, no doubt about it, but even then, Max brings a style that's hell to deal with. That's lighter man skill set is real, man. It's like a cheat code when your fundamentals are that sharp and you're finally fighting at your proper weight. And at this point, it's hard to say that Max isn't a legit monster at lightweight. He's filled out, he's carrying more pops in his shots, and he's still got that insane cardio and pace. Like, bro, who's gonna stop him at 155 right now? There's really only one name that makes you pause, and that's Ilia Topuria. That's the one guy hanging over Max's story like an asterisk. I mean, besides Volk. The guy who beat him at 145 and TKO'd him. But now, if they ran it back at 155 with this version of Max, that rematch would hit different. And we'll talk about that later. But for now, last night, that was Max Holloway putting the entire lightweight division on notice. And look, let me just say this real quick. I'm not saying that Max Holloway should be fighting for the title next. I'm not trying to jump the line or skip over guys like Armin or any other guys on top, you know? But here's what I'm saying. Max versus Charles Oliveira should be next. That's the one. That's the fight. And honestly, I think Max walks through him. Like, no disrespect to Charles. Dude's a former champ. He's dangerous everywhere. But I don't think he's built for what Max brings right now. I just think Charles Oliveira is too hittable. He has no chin. And honestly, I think it goes less than one round. I think it's that easy. I'm not gonna lie. And here's the thing. We've now seen that Max cooked two elite lightweights in the division, Justin Gaethje and Dustin Poirier. And no, they weren't literally back-to-back fights, but they were his last two at 155. And in both, he looked phenomenal. Against Gaethje, he showed us the power and patience. Against Poirier, he showed us the speed, the angles, the ability to survive those big moments and take over late. This version of Max is a complete problem. And defensively, Max has evolved. The wrestling defense is clean. You take him down, he's back on his feet. You try to clinch and slow the fight down, he's digging underhooks, creating space, and making you pay. His ability to reset, refocus, and keep that pace for 5 rounds, it breaks people. He doesn't gas, he doesn't get discouraged, he just keeps working. That's why I think people need to rethink that Topuria rematch idea. Because at 145, Max didn't get blown out, and he didn't go down easy either. Ilia didn't run through him. That was actually the toughest fight of Topuria's career so far. Max gave him real work. He had success in the pocket, tagging Ilia with clean shots here and there, and made him think in there. He didn't just survive, he made Ilia work for every inch. And Max pushed the gas tank and durable in a way we haven't seen anyone else do. It wasn't a one-sided beating. It was a real competitive fight in my opinion. And now that Max has fully grown in 155 and looks sharper, stronger, and more dangerous than ever, if they run it back at lightweight, it's not the same fight. It's a whole different equation. Because here's the thing, man. Max looked sharp in that first fight. He was doing what he needed to do, and he was on his bike, managing distance, sniping with the jab, sneaking in oblique kicks. He wasn't letting Ilia walk him down the way that Topuria did to Volk. And remember, that was a depleted Max. That was Max cutting all that weight down to featherweight. So imagine what that version of Max looks like without the weight cut. Imagine him fully fueled, hydrated, stronger, more durable. You don't think that changes things a little bit? I can see it now, bro. Max at 155 actually has that pop right behind the shots that he didn't have before. The little extra thud, that weight in the hips when he throws his combinations. Because let's be real, he was tagging Ilia in that first fight, but now those same shots might stun him a bit. Max's boxing at lightweight has some real impact. He showed that against Justin Gaethje, a guy who literally eats punches for breakfast. And even though Max got dropped in that fight, let's not forget how much damage he put on Justin. That was the same Justin who went to war with Poirier, Chandler, Fiziev, and Max made him look slow and overwhelmed him at times. And those oblique kicks, they were working. People kind of brushed over that part in the first fight, but go back and rewatch it. Every time Max stabbed Ilia with those knee stomps, Ilia reset. He didn't like them, they messed with his rhythm, and that's the craziest part. Max only threw a handful, but if he commits to them, chop at that lead leg more, maybe this fight plays a little bit different. Because Topuria has that classic bladed boxing stance. That front leg is right there to be chewed up. The reason guys haven't exposed it is because they're too busy getting knocked out in round 1. And Max was still there until round 3. Until he got knocked out, of course. And if Max keeps evolving on that approach and does it at a weight where he's not drained, that's gonna be a real problem for Topuria in my opinion. But here's the thing, man, and I hate to bring it up because Max looks incredible lately, but that tendency to freeze, it's still there. He'll be flowing vintage Max, mixing angles, snapping off combos, controlling the distance, and then out of nowhere, he'll just plant his feet, he'll stop moving for a sec, and that's the moment where things get dicey. I mean, we saw it against Dustin. He was styling early, bouncing in and out, frustrating Poirier with the speed and volume, but in round 2, he paused, just enough for Dustin to line up a bomb and dropped him. And yeah, Max recovered. he won the rest of the fight, but you can't ignore how dangerous that moment was. And that same thing, that same tendency is exactly what cost him in the first fight with Ilia Topuria. Because if you rewatch that fight, Max was holding his own. It wasn't some blowout. He was finding success with volume, mixing in kicks, tagging Ilia at range, but then he froze. That little stall where Max stood just long enough and Topuria doesn't miss that window. He read it, stepped in with that patient explosive, and landed that kill shot. That's how quickly it happens when you're fighting a guy like Ilia. And now, at lightweight, that danger is even real because Topuria didn't just move up. He leveled up. You saw what he did to Charles Oliveira. That wasn't just power. That was destruction, dude. He walked him down, chipped at his reactions, and when Charles planted, Ilia detonated that right hand like he's been waiting for it the whole time. He flatlined him. That's a guy who's been to war with Gaethje, with Dustin, with Chandler, and Topuria made it look easy. What makes Ilia scary isn't just the knockout power. It's how efficient he finds the shot. He creeps forward without giving you a read, subtle feints, shoulder movement, consistent pressure, and then boom, you're out cold. Look, man, I would still love to see the fight. I think it would be a great fight, but at the end of the day, man, I just think Ilia is always going to be a bad matchup for Max. Just stylistically, it's rough. Max thrives on volume, rhythm, and flow, but Ilia is the kind of dude that disturbs all of that with one perfect time nuke. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below, and if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And like always, guys, I'll see you guys on my next one.